Well, welcome back again to Coffee and Convos. And we have a return guest tonight, and we're totally excited to talk to her again. It's Dr. Wendy Burton.
One of Carindale Salvo's own,
Carindale Salvo's own,
which
that's
is
right.
very exciting, and we love Dr. Wendy at Carindale Salvo's and the way in which she speaks life into our space here.
Yeah, and cares for our people.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and look, I don't know if you guys that are out there remember, but when we were coming into the COVID-19 pandemic, Krista sat with Dr. Wendy and Dr. Susan Grice to talk about COVID-19 and coming in and some of the things that we needed to be aware of. And we did attempt to get Susan back with us tonight, but she just was unavailable. But we are very grateful for her willingness, and we will miss her tonight. But we are going to forge forward and talk a little bit about coming out of COVID-19 and what the implications are and the realities and the things that we still need to be aware of tonight. And we'll just draw on Dr. Wendy's wisdom, and we'll go forward from here. So we're very thrilled to have you.
Hey, Dr. Wendy, we know your time is precious.
Thank you.
So we thank you so much for your time, because you and I have had chats before as to how well you manage your time and how careful you are with your time. So we're really pleased that you had time for us.
Thank you. Always happy to make time for my church family. Yeah.
And we're keenly aware that this is probably not your first Zoom call for the day.
No, and I have another one to follow.
Oh wow. Okay, so we'll make sure that we keep up with it. But yeah, your life probably has moved very much onto Zoom, or has
it's a mix. It's a mix. So in my general practice, it had gone largely to telehealth, and I was doing that via my phone or just by the telephone. That's gone mostly back to face-to-face in the practice, but all the other things I do with Queensland Health and Martyr Mothers and the Royal Australian College of GPs, that's all Zoom or Teams now. So very different.
So was it not Zoom before COVID? Like, is that something
that
changed?
No. Well, so some things were. So obviously if there's a meeting in Melbourne, then we're Zooming that, except once a year I fly down for one face-to-face. But for the ones I do with Queensland Health and Martyr Mothers, no, I would spend an hour to drive a 15-minute journey in peak hour to get to the Royal once a month for a meeting. And I find myself wondering now, why did I ever do that?
Right.
What was I thinking?
COVID. Yeah.
So, Dr. Wendy, for those who are watching tonight that perhaps didn't see the first installment of the conversation with the doctors, could you just give a very brief introduction of yourself and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a general practitioner, so family doctor. And in addition to that, so I do that Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and a little bit on Thursdays. I also sit on a number of state and national and local committees. I do a lot of work in the maternity health space. And when COVID hit, I have 2 non-commercial websites, and I repurposed one of those to pretty much do COVID stuff. So I've been fairly immersed in the whole COVID journey, right from January, actually. January started to become aware that this was something we needed to watch. Sent my first tweet out at the end of January saying, watch this space. So,
yeah, that's good. That's good. So in regards to our current reality in Australia, many would be saying that we're on the other side of the pandemic, right? And
not a chance. Not a chance.
So there you go. Yeah. There's the answer to the question before I've even had a chance to ask it.
I think we will definitely get there. Like, talk to us a little bit about how you feel Australia has fared. Like, how have we navigated this space? Because in fairness, look, it's not over, but we're probably closer to the end than we are to the beginning. And so, maybe not. Okay. All right.
I love it.
So I think Australia has navigated the COVID space exceptionally well. And I think that even given the recent outbreaks in Melbourne and now some in Sydney, as a worldwide comparator, we've done exceptionally well. Right. And I think there's a number of things that feed into that. I think we're fortunate by virtue of our geography. So we're a little island, fairly big island, but we're an island sort of at the end of the earth almost. And the virus went across to Europe, not down to Asia and the Pacific. So we had the luxury of relative geographical isolation and time to see what happened if you didn't respond quickly. So Italy, France, UK, US, they were going off when we were having to make decisions, and we made decisions quickly and comprehensively. So March 19, Ruby Princess Doc. March 20, Australian closed borders to international visitors. March 29, we introduced the mandatory hotel quarantine for international travellers. So we acted very quickly. And then, of course, there was that whole stay at home, don't, and we really paused. And Easter was the quietest Easter weekend I can ever remember. We just huddled, and it was scary because we weren't sure what was coming at us. And we've done exceptionally well. But this is so not over. This is so not over. And it had got to a point where, to be honest, because I went into scrubs, I had my hair up, my jewelry off, my mask on. I spent 2 months like that in my general practice. So either doing telehealth or telephone consultations or wearing a mask every time I saw, a patient. And our case numbers were extraordinarily low. But this virus, it's a sneaky thing, and so I cannot tell. People say, oh, I know it's just a cold, I know it's just my asthma, I know it's my head. How do you know that? Because I don't know that. Because this virus can give you can have a blocked nose and that's it. You can have a headache and that's it. You can have a sore throat and that's it. There is no definite group of constellation of symptoms that we go, that's COVID. Although if you suddenly lose your sense of taste, sense of smell, get a fever, a cough, and tiredness, that's probably COVID if you're, in an area with COVID. But you can have no symptoms at all and spread this infection. So for me personally, I pose the biggest risk to almost everybody that I know of contracting COVID, because I'm in contact with people, including people who have respiratory infections. So yes, I'll wear a mask if I know they're coming in with a sore throat or runny nose, and my front desk will try to make sure that we do a telehealth first. So if I don't need to see them, I don't, but I'm still seeing sick people. So this isn't over. And so it got to a point where I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I'm all dressed up and nowhere to go. Look at me. I feel a bit silly now in my scrubs. And one of my friends actually said to me, do you feel that you've overcalled it? And then Melbourne happened. And that's what all of this has been for. Yeah. So I was actually preparing to go back into plain clothes, because can I be honest? Scrubs are really, really practical, great, very comfy, but I like my fashion.
Yeah,
I like my jewelry. I like my dress pretty. I like my match, Yeah, right. So I was ready to go back, and then the protests happened. I thought, I need to wait a couple of weeks. And then July, I was going to go, back into out of scrubs. And then Melbourne started to go off. And I'm in scrubs now, not because I think I need it in Brisbane at the moment, but because it's the visual signal that I'm sending to everybody who comes into my consulting room, everybody who sees me in the waiting room. This is not over. Okay. This fight is not over. And we will, if we are complacent about this, it will cost us the miracle that is the slow start that we've had. Now, worst case scenario, we are so much better positioned now. We have done the simulations, we have run the training, we have bought the ventilators, we have created the wards, we have stockpiled some PPE. We still don't have enough PPE, just so that you know. But we are so much better off now. We have some treatments that are looking to be helpful. We know about the prone position. We are so much better off now if it hits us. But I don't want it to hit us. I want us to be able to shelter at home. I want us to be in a safe place. Queensland's border is open with New South Wales. There's been some community cases in Byron Bay. Byron Bay is just over the border. I have no doubt that we will have more cases in Queensland. We haven't had a case of community transmission in Queensland for, I don't know, a month and a half or something. But I think it's going to come again.
It's right at the back door.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that we need to still be cautious about? All of the same things, or talk us a little bit about that.
So pretty much, the bottom line is, when you have a highly infectious disease that can kill you, or if not kill you because you're young, healthy, may disable you, or if not kill you and not disable you, may kill or disable somebody that you know and that you love. And if not somebody that you know and that you love, somebody still that is in your community. And there is no vaccine and there is no, antibiotic or antiviral, antibiotics won't work for a virus, antiviral that will fix this, then you must go back to first principles. And first principles is don't make contact with the bug. And so what does that mean? Well, how is it spread? It's spread by droplet and maybe by aerosol. What does that mean? Well, it means that we need to keep our distance, and we need to wash our hands, and we need to cover our mouth when we cough, and we need to not go out when we're sick. And so we're going to have to bed that down into business as usual from now until, who knows, maybe forever. I don't know. Nobody knows. Are we going to get a vaccine? Oh, please God, can we get a vaccine? But it will be months, if not years, before that's all bedded down and we know how effective it is, how well tolerated it is, how long it lasts. There's questions about how long the antibody protection from COVID lasts. Can we make a vaccine that would last longer? This is a novel coronavirus. This is new. We haven't had this before. We don't have the answers. We know the questions to ask, but we don't have the answers yet. So it's not over. We are all relaxing. You go into the supermarket, you go into the shopping centre, you visit with your family, and we're all much more relaxed now. Yeah, there was a time you'd walk down the aisles at Woolies, and if somebody walked the other way, you'd kind of, jump a little bit as they come by, and you'd have one of those sort of shy, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But, you just keep your distance. I was walking, down my street, and I was walking on the footpath with my son Harrison, and this woman coming the other, well, she shot us this look, and she put her arm out like, keep your distance. That's not happening anymore. My sister came to visit. She's doing great work in, keeping herself with very low contact with others. She's vulnerable. She stood close to me. She's my sister. We just stood like you guys are, just shoulder to shoulder. And I had to move away, and I had to remind her, you're standing too close. And she looked at me like, and I said, I pose the risk to you. Yes, I could, you don't know, and I don't know, I could be shedding this virus and I'm passing it on to you. I don't want to do that. I don't want you, so it's not over, and I'm sorry, but we have relaxed. And unless we had, I think we can get elimination. I think that not 100% elimination, not no cases at all in the nation, but sort of like what New Zealand's done, that the only cases that are coming in from overseas. So from returned citizens and residents, and from the people that we're trading with, and air crews and things like that. But those groups we are isolating, we're quarantining them when they get back in, we're testing them before they leave. That's a small manageable number. If we can get back to not having that community transmission, and Western Australia, Northern Territory, South Australia, ACT, Tasmania and Queensland have done that. Yeah, it's just Victoria and Sydney that have got the community transmission. If we can get back to that, then sure, within our own nation, we can then hug again and shake again and high five. I did virtual high fives with a gorgeous 6-year-old yesterday, but I can't high five her at the moment. And we need to be modelling that behaviour as responsible behaviour during a pandemic, which is nowhere near over. Oh my gosh, are you watching those numbers? We had 1 million added in the last 4 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it all comes down to individual responsibility, doesn't it, really? We all have to take that individual responsibility of protecting both ourselves and other people.
So here is where we will win or lose this battle, in my opinion, is whether the collective we is more important than the individual me. Yeah. If my responsibility as a member of my society, as a caring, kind person who doesn't want to harm my neighbor and my community, if I will then live a smaller life, a different life, a quieter life, a more distanced life, if I will disadvantage myself for now because I don't want to put you at risk, if that can be the stronger call of the society, then we will get through this. But if my rights, my desires. I don't want to live this way. I want to go to the beach. I want to party. I want to go to the pub and stand at the bar. I want to dance. I want to, if that's what I want to do, and for now I can't put that on hold while we figure out, please God, let us figure out how to manage this. If we can't do that, then we can't control this. So it's very much about me taking a decision as an individual that I care more about my community than I care about myself.
Yeah, and individual freedoms, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's very powerful to say because
it's me to we, right?
It's
yeah.
Me. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. It's not about me, it's about we. And I say that mindful that I am part of the privileged, I don't have a backyard anymore. I have a front yard. I have more than 2 rooms in my house. I have 2 bathrooms in my house. I have 4 sinks in my house. I can wash my hands. I have soap. I have water. There are members of our city, people in our city who don't have those things. Yeah. And so it's easier for me. I have nothing to complain about, really. Is this convenient? No. Do I want to hug my family and my friends? Yes. Do I want to be traveling at the moment? Yes. Was I planning a different year? Oh, yes. But this isn't hard, really. This isn't hard.
Yeah.
Now,
So good.
Krista, you were talking to me a little while ago about vulnerable people.
Yes.
And that would be something that we should just talk with Wendy about.
Yeah, the Queensland state has defined vulnerable people as people who are over 70. Just remind us what those definitions are, Wendy. People over 70, anybody with a respiratory illness.
Mm-hmm. So we've got Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander populations who are over 50. We have people who have diabetes, people who have high blood pressure, people who have pre-existing heart problems. We also have concerns for the pregnant population, those who have immune deficiencies, and actually for our First Nations people, full stop, regardless of their age. So there's a number of people that fall into a vulnerable category.
Yeah. And so, look, the challenge that we have, and I think this is something that you and Susan identified even in our original conversation, was the fact that we have to protect vulnerable people. So that is the we. When we think about from me to we, we're protecting our vulnerable people and those in our society that could really become susceptible. It's hard to protect them, but also then stay engaged with them, because also the bigger fear is the loneliness that comes with self-isolation and with protecting them. So obviously we're all feeling, like you've identified, we're all feeling a little bit more relaxed, which we probably need to pull back in. But how do we protect them, but also make sure that they know that they are loved and valued, and that we're not ostracizing them, but that we're trying to, it's such a hard tension.
Yeah.
It really is, and it's that art of staying physically distanced but socially connected, so the phone calls, the Zoom calls, the Teams meetings, the FaceTime, the handwritten letter, there's ways that we can continue to let people know that we're thinking of them, and that we can't be together perhaps physically, but we can still chat. So I have set up, for example, with my family a weekly Zoom meeting, and actually I've had more conversations with my sister and my brothers and my niece since COVID hit than I've had in years, because once a week we spend about an hour on Zoom and we connect on purpose we connect. Yeah. And my niece is in Melbourne and she's feeling quite isolated with 2 young children, so I think it's really important that we're having these conversations.
It is.
Sorry, I was just going to say something that Wendy, if I am a vulnerable person and I'm struggling with wanting to re-engage in life, what is the medical profession saying to me right now?
Choose wisely. Yeah, choose wisely. So I think that you can. And it depends where you live. Yeah. So if you live in a nursing home in Victoria that has COVID, no, you can only do this virtually. It's just too high risk. Unfortunately, COVID is sweeping through and not just causing infections, but causing deaths. And there's huge numbers around the world. If you're a vulnerable person in Queensland where there hasn't been a community transmission case for 6 weeks, and you're meeting with people who are low risk, and you know that they're careful and cautious and they haven't come back from Melbourne via Sydney in a hotspot, meet together. But meet together, like it's winter in Brisbane. It's beautiful one day, perfect the next, except for the weekend, which was rainy and cold, and yesterday, which was westerly winds. But so meet outside, or so. I think it's okay to meet at the moment in Brisbane. I think it's a really low risk situation here at the end of July in 2020, but that could change in a week, in a fortnight, in a month. It just could change. And the way that we help to stop that is that we stay on guard, so we manage this on purpose by being more cautious than we think we should be. Because I'd rather be right on the side of caution than wrong and cost a life. Now that's my bias. I'm a doctor. I would save everybody's life. I would have slammed everything shut straight away. I wouldn't care about the economy. I would just make this up afterwards. I don't want to lose anybody. Yeah. Other people will argue that, and we'll have and economists have different opinions, but I just figure whether you only have to look to what's happened overseas. You only have to look to cases of Sweden and the United States and Brazil, and you cannot save your economy by sacrificing your people. Yeah, and we made a decision that we value our elders, we value our vulnerable, and we will sort out the money later. But right now, we are staying safe.
That's a good word. I appreciate that, and I know that people who are watching will also appreciate that as well, and that encouragement. Look, there's also the reality of church, and when I say church is a very broad word that includes a tremendous amount of stuff. But when a lot of people think about church, they think about congregational meeting and meeting as. And we know that some of the regulations some of the restrictions have been lifted in that area, and people are allowed to meet again. But there are still some stipulations and things that people need to be aware of. And so it's just a topic of conversation now all over the world.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not just us that
and it's not just us.
Not
just Karen Del Salvos, and obviously not just the Salvation Army, but the church around the world is now trying to wade their way through right decisions when it comes to meeting again congregationally. And there are some churches we have heard about in the United States, very large churches that have come down with the decision that they're not going to meet congregationally again until 2021. And look, that's a huge decision. And the United States, Canada, some other countries are still in the thick of things. And look, in fairness, we are not out of the woods here either. But restrictions eased a bit more here than other places. So do you have any comments about the church space and the reality there in a place where, people want to gather, they want to be able to talk closely with each other, shake hands and hug and all of those things in a church space, but still realizing that we're not out of the woods and that's still got some risk attached to it as well?
So what should we be mindful of?
Yeah, what should we be mindful of, I guess, is what we're asking.
So I miss face-to-face church. Yeah. I miss hugging you guys. I miss seeing you guys. I miss singing in public. I miss hearing the band. I miss the gathering. Yeah. I'm loving church on the couch. I'm loving that I can clean my shoes while I'm loving that I can, be focused and in the moment, during that time. I'm loving that if a family member drops in, I can press pause but then resume later. So I'm loving the flexibility, and we were invited over to another family recently, and that was great. That whole small group vibe. So that's good. But I think human nature is such that it's very hard for us at the moment to safely gather at church. Unfortunately, we're seeing some of the cases in Melbourne are linked to a church and linked to, funerals. We've seen around the world linked to funerals, linked to weddings, linked to social gatherings, linked to churches, linked to choirs. And so if we could all agree that we were to meet at church, then here's what I think we would need to do to make it safe for Carindale. One, you couldn't greet in the foyer. That would be a thoroughfare. That's too small a space. So you'd have to greet outside and then come straight inside. We would have to be seriously distanced. We could sit in our small family groups, yeah. But otherwise, you're distanced to the next person. You couldn't hug, you couldn't shake, you couldn't high five. You could maybe elbow bump. We couldn't have the band because the aerosol potential with brass bands. I don't know anybody studying it, but it's just a no-brainer for me that would be a risk. We couldn't sing. We couldn't share a plate of biscuits or fruit or cake. So I'm kind of thinking there's a whole lot of that is church. But we could meet outside. We could gather outside. We could have, some people upstairs. We could have a few people downstairs. We could have some people at the back, some people in the car park. But how do we, what are we watching it on our phone while we're doing, I think that the desire to be back the way we were, I get that. I want to be back in my church home, but I just don't trust us. And it wouldn't be even that I would be intentional, but we would just see someone and we'd want to hug. Yeah, we'd want to kiss, we'd want to chat, we'd want to sing. What's the Salvation Army music without the band and singing? God would be there. I know God would be there, but the joyful noise, I don't know. So could we do it and all wear masks? Maybe it would be safer if we all wear masks. Do we want to all wear masks? I've ordered masks, cloth masks. I have ordered them. I'm thinking, it's coming up the East Coast, so I'm getting ready for myself and my family. But it's just at the moment. If we got elimination around the nation, yeah,
right.
Elimination around the nation, yes. But seriously, I was in a meeting last Wednesday, and Queensland Health, what they said about it is that what we're seeing is COVID coming up the eastern seaboard, yeah. So it's very close now to the Queensland border. Me, I'm a doctor. I would have shut our border last Friday.
Right.
I might not have even reopened it, given what was happening in Melbourne and given that there were those few early cases in Sydney. I know the economy needs it. Yeah. So I'm so sorry. I just don't think we're ready. If we go in, that's the other thing we can do is we can open all the windows. We can not put the air conditioners on. There are other things that we can do to make our space safer. But what we can't control is what our people do. Yes. And it's my sister didn't stand next to me because she was trying to make a point about breaching any COVID regulation. She stood next to me because she's my sister.
Right.
And we're comfortable being close. Yeah. And it took me a little while to realize we shouldn't be standing that close.
Yeah, that's right.
Because she's my sister.
It's a tension, isn't it? It's a really, really hard and Tim and I have talked about this actually quite a bit, because really in this space, because it's so new for everybody, and you've acknowledged that even for the medical field, and like everything is so new that makes decisions very, very difficult, because there's that tension that you're always just trying to make the right decision with the right information, with the right stuff, but also recognize the need for community. And so it's hard. It's really hard.
It is really hard, and I'm really sorry. I wish this was easier, and I wish we had a better solution, and I wish it would just all go away, and I pray that it will all just go away. But that's not what's happening in our world, and that's not what's happening in our nation, and it hasn't kicked up yet in our state. But my fear is that it will. My concern is that it will, and I think we need. I keep thinking it'll just be another couple of weeks and then we'll know. It'll just be and then something else happens. And I think this is our new reality. Stuff's just happening, and so we have to stay agile and light And I think it's really hard when you've had something to lose it. I think Melbourne, the second shutdown was harder than the first in part because they'd got back to the coffee shops, they'd got back to the restaurant, they'd got, and then no, it's all gone again. And if we get back to church and then it's got to go, or if it gets back to church and some of us get sick, that would be a really heavy burden. We have so many, unfortunately, in our congregation who are vulnerable. And the thing is, Tim, and I've said this to you, and I don't say this to scare anybody, but this is a novel coronavirus. We don't know what the side effects are. If you have chicken pox, you can get shingles decades later. If you had polio, you can get post-polio syndrome years later. If you have measles, you can get subacute sclerosing panencephalitis years later. If you have glandular fever, some people, or EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, what do you call it? Infectious mono is what you call it in the US, yeah? Some people get chronic fatigue after that. So what will COVID do? Could COVID mean that you couldn't run again, or you couldn't cycle again, or that you had brain fog? We don't know what percentage, but we're hearing reports that this is happening to young people who've recovered from COVID, to athletes and such. This would be life-shattering and changing. So I think for now, the safest position is that we do church on the couch.
Yeah.
But I miss church too.
Yeah, we all do.
I think what I hear you saying is that, it's a novel coronavirus. It's unpredictable enough that we still need to take it very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Hey, Wendy, one of the, I can't remember if we asked this in our first interview, I can't remember, but what, now being this far in the journey with it, what do you think that God is teaching us in the middle of this?
What do we really value? Yeah. What do we really value when the world stood still? Yeah. When we were all forced to slow down, I found out that I didn't value sitting in traffic for an hour to go to a meeting. It was such a waste of my time. And the things that really mattered to me was reconnecting with my family. Yeah. I think that God is teaching us that for all of our progress and for all of our technology and for all of our wealth and all of our, look at me, aren't I doing great, a little something of a virus can undo it all in a heartbeat. And so what do you really value? What's really important in your life? What matters most? And for me, for all of us, take that moment to think it through. What's important to you? Who do you value? And if it is all about me, then that's not a gospel message. That's not in any of the books that I'm reading at the moment. Yeah. The books of the Bible, I just finished Kings. Thank goodness I've just finished Kings. Anyway, he did evil in the sight of the Lord and all of that, it was great when they were building the temple. It's been devastating when they ransacked the temple. Yeah. But that happened. Yeah. So however magnificent, and even the temple that God ordained, that God said to David, no, you can't build, this is for Solomon, but you can get, and all the preparation and all the cedar and all the gold and all the silver and the bronze that they couldn't count, it still got taken away. Yeah. What matters is relationships. Yeah. Relationship with God, relationship with others. What matters is that we care for the widow and the orphan. We speak for those who have no voice. We look after the vulnerable. I'm in the book of Mark now. Christ didn't come for the well. So, the whole doctor thing, the doctor isn't there for the well people, there for the sick. The church exists for those who need it and have the resources. This is not a social club for us to feel better about ourselves. This is about us serving the community and looking after the vulnerable. What do I think God is teaching us? That the message hasn't changed. Yeah. One God, same today as yesterday, same forever and for always. Loving God, loving others, serving others. What is this? This is Booth's message, others. That's what this is.
Yeah.
So good. From me to we.
Yeah.
from me to we.
Me to we.
Yeah.
That's
So good. So good.
I love that. Wendy, we appreciate you. We appreciate the fact that you're in a important pivotal job that is connecting with people and that is committed to others, like you really are, and we appreciate that. But I'll tell you what I appreciate more about you is that your heart is so sensitive to the moving of the Spirit and to the way in which God speaks to you. And I believe that you have some very important things to share, because you are so receptive to the Spirit and the way in which He speaks. And so we thank you. Thank you for sharing all of those things with us today, but also thank you for that message at the end, because I think that is so, so important for all of us to remember and to see.
Yeah.
From me to we.
That
needs to be the descriptor of this chat.
We will definitely make sure we do that.
That's the telling point, I think.
Dr. Wendy,
Go ahead, Wendy.
I was just going to say one last thing. It was because I have these conversations as well with the patients that I see. And one of the dear ladies who I'm looking after, I've looked after her for 20 years, but I looked after her mother and her mother-in-law before they died. And she said about all the people that are going on about their rights and that you can't do this and I don't have to wear a mask and you can't tell me what to do. She said, they've never lost their mother.
Yeah.
And I've lost both my parents and I wouldn't wish it, premature death or even, it's just so hard. And I think when you've lost somebody who is really, really valuable to you, you appreciate. And yes, I hope and expect to see her again in glory, but I miss her now. I miss her here. Yeah. And I think when you've felt that loss, you care less about me and more about we.
Yeah. So good.
A good word. Yeah.
Well, we want to pray over you, and we want to pray for all those that are watching this or having a chance to watch it back in their own time and in their own space. But let's just spend some time just praying over you and your ministry in all that you do from day to day, and that really that God would just continue to give you courage. Courage in the coming days, because I'm sure that you are having many of these conversations with your patients and with the people that are in your circle, just about how important it is that we look after each other. So I want to pray over you for that. So let's pray together. God, we just want to thank you for this time, and we want to thank you for all of those that have had a chance to join us, whether they're watching this live or whether they're going back and watching it on their own time. And Lord, we all recognize the challenges of today. And we all recognize the fact that that there are things that we are missing together. And that there's just something that has come along with this that creates that space of yearning for community, for connection. And so right now, Lord, I pray that you would help us to be incredibly mindful of the responsibility that we have to care for one another. And in that caring to also protect one another. And so, Lord, I pray in these days that you would make us incredibly careful, that we really live a life that is about others and not about our own personal desires. And so today, we just want to thank you for the message that Wendy has kind of brought to us, and in the knowledge that you have blessed her with, and in the way in which she is moving around in our community, caring for those who are sick, Lord. I want to thank you for the reminders that you have placed on her heart that she has shared with us today. And I would ask that you would continue to protect her, that you would continue to give her a heart that is attuned to you. And as she speaks with her clients, with her patients, with the people in the medical field, Lord, that they would also be receptive to the things that you are giving her. And Lord, that we would just continue to come alongside Wendy and all of those that are in the medical profession right now, and that we would just give them and intercede on their behalf, and just help give courage in these days, Lord. So we thank you for this time. We pray for wisdom, not just for Wendy and her colleagues, but we pray for wisdom for us. We pray for wisdom for those that are watching, that we would just continue to live simplified lives so that we are able to maneuver and move through this pandemic in a way that, that just protects so many, Lord. And so we would ask that you would just be with us as we continue to walk this road together. This we pray in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, guys.
My friend,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we just thinking of Ray and the family and the boys, and hope everyone is doing well. And and we just miss
you know, we are the privileged ones. We all have jobs. You know, we all have a roof over our head. I think I've told you before, it's devastating really to see how little boys' lives have changed. They need to get out more. When all this is over, they need to get out more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there'll be one big part of this for sure.
Yeah. So, and I think that as a congregation, I think we possibly, you know, we can move we do some stuff outside. You flag that in your correspondence, and I think that for people who want to meet, that'll be the way to do it. Let's meet outside while the weather is still good and such. But church as we know it, Carindale Salvos, with the brass band, with the singing, with the hugging, with the sharing of the biscuits, can't happen. Not now.
Yeah. So
not yet.
We want to thank you once again, and we should say to just those who are watching, if you have any questions, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a section to comment or ask questions. And I'm sure that if it's a question for myself or Krista or for Wendy, that we can engage there with you. If you'd like to engage with us, we'd be happy to receive that and answer any questions and chat with you as much as possible.
And I think, look, the information that's been given to today, like if it's helpful, like you think that it should maybe go beyond, then share.
Yeah, that's
and we can get this message out to many people about the fact that we all just need to be mindful and careful of each other. So I think that's a good message to share. So share.
Yeah, so we're so glad that you could join us for another installment of Coffee and Convos. And thanks again, Wendy, and we'll say goodbye.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.